No, not yet. No. Crap. All right, so you guys are just going to go ahead and miss the opening introduction there that everyone loves so much. Sorry about that. I'm not the best at this live streaming thing because I'm doing it on my own with my own software. Just bear with me. Okay. So you can all have a good chuckle at that. I'm just going to get the rest of the stuff set up over here so I can see the chat. And here we go. All right, guys. Welcome. Grateful that you are all here tonight. Super excited about this live stream. It's number 2 for this year, and I'm going to keep doing a bunch of these throughout the years. Once a month, taking your guys' questions, inviting guests on, and we're just going to have a ton of fun. So how tonight will play out is... we'll invite John in just a minute, even though he's just sitting right over here. He's actually trying to Instagram himself. He's just being a weirdo. This is what you get when you invite someone to your home that has stalked you on YouTube for a long time, which is a true story. John and I are good friends now. But I wanted to thank all of you again for joining us, and those who are down inside of the chat. I see that Dutchy Girl is here from the Netherlands. I believe it's 3:30 a.m. for her. So, I mean, wow, that's some dedication right there. Colin, he's inside of Goodyear and representing Arizona. Thank you. And you'll learn a little bit more about someone else who's inside of Arizona soon, which will be cool. Nick Hart, Louisville, Kentucky, welcome. And everyone else who is in here, welcome. If it is lagging, I am sorry. I have created a new profile for this, and it doesn't seem like it is working. Unfortunately, if I end the stream, it's all over. But when I started the stream, everything was great. It told me everything was excellent, and now it's just not working. Oh, no. And I'm seeing it just stuttering there. Yeah, so I don't know if I should keep going or just start another live stream. So, how bad is it? You guys tell me. Do you think I should just start over? It would take me about 2 minutes.
I don't think it's bad at all. It's going right through.
Is it okay?
Yeah, it's going right through.
Okay, I'm just going to keep trying. All right. Further, I wanted to thank our Patreon supporters and those who are supporting me on other platforms and stuff. We're very, very grateful for your guys' dedication to the channel and support. It helps us do many, many, many great things, and I just wanted to publicly thank you guys before we really get into the video here. Also, the response to these live streams have been fantastic. People have really been enjoying them, especially the clips that we're making from them. I don't know if you realize that we're taking clips from the live stream, putting them on YouTube, tagging them so that you have little digestible bits of information, and they're really fun. We're going to be making more from tonight. So if you have a question and it shows up in the chat, I try to feature you guys when we make those clips, so make sure you're participating and join in and having the fun. Anyways, tonight we're inviting with us CFI inside of the area, John Keith. A quick background between me and him. I told you he stalked me on YouTube, and it is a true story. He was just messaging me out of the blue and started talking. Not a liar. And then he was all of a sudden, he's like, hey, check out this really cool airplane that I'm flying. And it happened to be an airplane that had a bunch of lights on the bottom of it. And it was, what is it called? A
LED sky sign.
A sky sign, there's the word. And he flies it around the valley here at night, or he used to. He doesn't do it much anymore. And I'm like, that's cool. And he sent me pictures, and I'm like, hey, I should go check this out for the channel. It never happened because he quit doing it.
I still do it.
Oh, you still do it?
I still do it.
Oh my gosh.
We need to do a flight together.
We're going to bring that to you guys. We're going to do a nighttime flight with the sky sign.
And we can discuss
that's going to be...
How do you get a job, your first commercial job?
We can discuss some of that tonight about first commercial jobs, because that's a question we're definitely going to be posing to him. Anyways, without any more ado, because he is just sitting right here, I'm just going to scoot over. John, yay!
Almost
come on in.
And busted up my face.
Yeah, that'll be great.
There's a slight delay between that and here.
Oh, yeah, no. There is a lag between us and you guys, so just... It's fine. We're still new at this. It's just fun. So, John, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, I'm a newly minted flight instructor at Fly Goodyear. I made a healthcare career change, getting out of doing anesthesia tech/assisting, and decided to become a pilot. And I am so glad with the way the world is working right now that I don't have to deal with that. I did this at the right time. There is no better way of doing this.
Oh, I don't. I believe you. Yeah, aviation's great. I enjoyed it. I gave up a IT career to jump over to aviation. It's definitely been worth it. Especially, I did it when I was 35-ish. So
That's when I started training. Was 36.
yeah. So there's still opportunities for everyone who says, "Can I go and start flying later on inside of life?" Yes, you can.
Absolutely.
You just have less, I would say, opportunity later on. Like you won't become the captain of the 787 flying around the world, because usually those guys are in their 60s and they started in their 20s.
But you'd have no life. And
yeah, it's true.
I mean, it's possible, but you can hope for some luck. But just have fun in the process. You'll never have a better office view than when you're flying.
Yeah. Anyway, so you are a CFI right now, and you had to go through the process. Tell us, where did you train at?
So I started my initial training at Westwind School of Aeronautics. I did
That's at Deer Valley, right?
That's at Deer Valley.
Deer Valley, yeah.
The busiest general aviation airport.
I see that all the time.
I want to say in the world, because it was a struggle at first. My private certificate was not easy to get with how busy parallel runways are. 8 to 10, sometimes 15 planes on each side. The control tower there, those guys do not get paid enough for what they do.
True.
You've been there.
I trained there.
It's
worthwhile training there.
Yes, no, absolutely. Because if you can get in and out of Deer Valley in less than 0.7 on the Hobbs, you can go anywhere.
I never had that problem. See, he trained on the south runway, and if you guys go to my Instagram and scroll for a while, you'll see a picture of 15 aircraft ready to try to take off. They're all in line, all waiting. That's where he went. I was on the north side, and I just say, "Hey, can I take off?" And they say, "Sure, get out of here." So it's
It was interesting. It was watching my money go right out of the window. Not only with flight training, but because we had 0.7, 0.8. There was one time it was 0.9 on the Hobbs before I could even start my lesson.
Oh, so that's painful. That's painful.
Welcome to Deer Valley. So now I'm a flight instructor at Fly Goodyear.
Fly Goodyear, and you finished up your.
I finished my CFI over at Fly Goodyear.
Okay.
They actually had an opening, and I took an opportunity, and I left Westwind, and I went to Fly Goodyear, and I was able to finish up in 5 or 6 months.
But you've been eat, sleep, and drinking aviation since, how many years ago?
Well, with a full-time job, and I was on call 4 or 5 days a week at the hospital. Plus, I worked weekend shifts. I took a weekend shift so I could have the flexibility during the week to flight train. Mm-hmm. That allowed me to go to school, but then at the same time, I had no life.
Yeah,
I couldn't do anything. I couldn't party. I couldn't drink. I barely could date my ex-girlfriend. That we're now broken up partly because of this. So, it's a beast, but I don't regret any moment that I've ever spent.
Awesome. Well, that's a little bit about John, and we're going to start diving into a handful of things here. So I wanted you guys to know how tonight is going to work out is I'm going to be talking with John. We're going to be sharing experiences, answering questions inside of the chat, some questions from the community, and also experiences in our life. I think I already said that. I'm just way too excited. Anyways, in the chat, if you want to ask us a question, you need to use the @ symbol. So like right here, @ Fly with the Guys. What that does is that lights up our chat that you guys commented to us. It's easier for us to see because sometimes this chat moves very, very quickly, and we want to get to as many questions as we possibly can. So anyways.
A ton of people in here. How many people we have?
Like 37, 40.
Good.
Fly with the Guys, add us, and that will work. Anyways, moving on. So we're going to go ahead and let's see where I'm at here. One of the biggest questions, not biggest questions, but something that students should definitely be paying attention to when they're starting their flight training, especially with a private instructor in Part 61, is making sure you get a good instructor. Yeah. I flew with 5 people, I think, before I finally chose my instructor of choice, and I'm sure you had a similar experience, but what do you think that people should be looking for?
I had 3, and my dad, fortunately, was in aviation my entire life. He worked for the Department of Defense, was on the Apache program from conception all the way through the last model that they had. And I remember very poignantly, my dad looked at me and goes, "Don't go to a school that's going to teach you the bare minimum. Go to a school that's going to really push you to the point where you want to quit. You want to be done. But make sure that the school is then working for you." Because at that time, and as a student pilot, you're the boss. You're the...
People forget that.
Yeah, you literally own that instructor in that school. And if there's something you need to have done, you need to speak up and tell the school, "Hey, I feel this, I want that, these are my desires. And the instructor should be flexible enough to then take those goals and make them achievable. There's nothing in aviation you can't do. It's going to take a lot of hard work from you as the student pilot, but you also have got to you have to have a really good relationship with your instructor. And if they're there just burning up time because they don't care about you and they just want to go to the airlines, you probably should have never been an instructor.
Yeah.
I get that's a lot of the guys that do that, but no, we're not all like that.
Well, yeah, and I would dare say that when you're looking for an instructor, you need to look, especially for people you get along with. You need to make sure that your schedules work together. And like you said, that they're willing to work with you and understand that they're your employee technically.
Yeah. It took me 8 months to find a school. And in that 8 months, I went to every flight school in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area. The school I chose to go to was an hour away from my house. And now my current employer is an hour away from my house again. It is worth the drive to me. If you want quality training, you might have to drive a while. You might have to move closer. You've got to find a school that works for you. Mm-hmm. If you're close to an airport that works for you, great, awesome, don't leave. But if you can't, you need to go find a school that will make sure that they will give you what your desires and goals are.
Yeah, a good instructor will make or break your experience. Yes. And we also have some really great videos over on the channel about choosing the right instructor and also taking charge of your instruction yourself, which goes into a lot of the details of things that we're kind of talking about. We're just like high-level stuff right now. So definitely check those videos out. I'll try to remember to put them down in the description when we're done here because they are really good comments. Now, I see a bunch of questions coming in here, so I'm going to take a look at these for a second. I know we're using a really small screen right now.
Sweet. It goes from New York City to New Jersey.
Yes.
Well, good. You know how I feel.
Yes, he does.
God.
So someone in here asked, how many private pilot lessons should go for a month? I have one video that will probably answer that better and at length than we can probably talk about in here. But it's the cheapest and fastest way to get your private pilot certificate or license, sorry. And the reason is because it goes through how to lower the cost. And in lowering the cost, the things that you do to lower the cost will make it so tell you how many lessons you should be doing a week and how to get there the fastest. Yeah. So go definitely check that one out. And that question's from Dion Ogerman, and he's been in a lot of our live streams. And I've talked to him before, not physically talked to him, but interact with him through like this. Yep. So
Clayton, what's up, buddy? Congratulations on your private pilot certificate. One of my students graduated today. He passed his check ride this morning, so it was nice. It was good. We have 2 now students that I've known from the school that got their license, and they're progressing forward.
True. I'm going to take one more question over here from the chat, and then we're going to move on to a community question. And this is from Brian Lunham. Can I learn at my own pace to make sure I understand? The answer is yes. You can learn at your own pace. The problem that comes in when you say, I want to go at my own pace, and maybe say fly every other week or something like that, or learn in a different structured way, you start drawing out how long it takes to get your certificate. The average right now for anyone, even at a flight school, is around 65 to 70 hours. As soon as you
60.
Soon as you start stretching those lessons out or moving at a slower pace than what's suggested, the average moves to 95 and then to 120 hours. And so it becomes more costly. And if that's fine with you, that's totally fine. Move at your own pace. I have seen a lot of people who, because they've stretched it out too long, never push themselves and never complete.
Yeah, they ran out of money.
And they'll run out of money.
That's probably number one.
Yes. Yes. And yes. So Brian, hopefully that answers your question. And we're going to jump over here and answer a question from, his name is Sab Legit. And he asked the question, I know, right? That's a big question. He says, I've heard you need a 4-year bachelor's degree to become a pilot, but I can't wait that long and can't afford to pay for college and flight school, both at the same time. So is there a way I can quickly become a major airline pilot with maybe community college, 2-year accelerated degree? And he says, please let me know ASAP. I commented back to him, and hopefully he's here tonight. I said, hey, I'll answer that in our live stream this Friday. So the real answer to that is yes and no. Do you need a degree? Yes. Do you need a degree? No. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit. The real reason is because some people, let's say the regional airlines, the first step that you would take after you get your 1,500 hours and become an ATP or airline transport pilot, that first step, the regional airlines don't care. They just want someone with the hours, someone with the experience, and they're ready to take you.
Yep.
But the major airlines, they do want that 4-year degree. And you're absolutely right in saying that's ridiculously expensive, because it is. To go to get a 4-year degree and do your flight training to 1,500 hours, I mean,
It's obscene.
You could be a doctor at that point for the same money.
You'd be a really crappy doctor, but you could be a doctor.
Or anesthesiologist.
No, even they need more time than that.
But what it comes down to is what you want to do. Do you just want to stick with the regional airline? That's fine. You don't have to get the degree. But if you want to... Oh, wait. I remember what I was going to say now. Before COVID, we were moving away from the 4-year degree. It was about people with experience. Because there was such a pilot shortage, we needed pilots. But once COVID hit, the airlines fell apart.
Yep.
And now we're in a situation where they can be picky. They can be choosy. They can wait until the right pilots come along that meet their requirements. So expect right now to say, hey, I need to have the 4-year degree if I want to go be an airline pilot, as well as becoming the pilot itself and become an airline transport pilot. So there's a lot that's going on there. But there's another alternative that you can do that doesn't require a degree, a 4-year degree. And it is a 4-year degree. I glazed over that. A 2-year degree, a lot of them don't like that. They want to see the full bachelor's degree. But what it is there's pathway programs. I know that one of the schools over at my airport, they have one. And then the school you just went to was bought by United.
Yeah, the school I used to go to, yeah.
Yeah, Westwind. They were bought by
purchased
United,
yeah.
to create a pathway program. So the idea is you start with them, you train with them, you go through the whole program, and now you're a United pilot. But in the end, you get to the airlines just like you wanted. But there's a catch. Unless you plan on working for United for the rest of your life, which you may want to do and may work out, if you want to move to another airline, you don't have the degree. You have the experience, you don't have the degree.
And you can lose seniority.
And you lose seniority.
Which is probably even worse.
And that goes into a whole other discussion.
That's a whole different issue. That's
So to answer your question, yes and no. Look at the pathway programs if you're interested in working for one airline. Get the degree if you can, but if you can't, like I said, there are ways to work towards the major airlines or even stick with the regional airlines, just depending on your pilot goals. So, anything else to add to that?
It's going to be a struggle. Even people with 4-year degrees, now they've got a whole bunch of debt, and they're going to put on flight training debt. A lot of people are still not going to do this. And I think once COVID lifts, once we figure out what the government's going to do, and once some of the bureaucrats who are controlling everything now, I think once they release some of their power, it's going to come back to being, oh my dear God, we've got lots of people who want to fly, and we have no one to put up front. And that's when you're going to want to jump.
Yeah.
So stay positive. Don't burn any bridges. Network the craziness out of this system, because if you don't do that, you're never going to get anywhere. You've got to network, even with people you don't like. Just bite your tongue and just deal with it and be friendly with everybody that you can be. You never know what might happen. I can tell you there are a lot of people I can't stand, and some of those people have helped me get to where I am. So I can't hate him for it, including this guy.
Yep.
Couldn't stand him before. Now,
oh, ouch.
Now,
Remember, he stalked me. All right. Moving on here. I want to say hi to a couple more people inside of the chat here. Experimental Aircraft Channel, that would be a Brian with a Y. Welcome. Thank you for coming and saying hi. Miguel, 9590. We see your questionnaire thing there.
How much is too much training for a week? That depends on the lesson.
Yeah.
We do a minimum of two hours. Westwind, it was a minimum of 2 hours.
But do you train 5 days a week?
That might be a little too much. At that point, you're probably going to start forgetting stuff.
But if someone trained at that accelerated rate, how long do you think it would take them to get to their certificate?
5 days a week, 2 hours. And if you, some days you might have to do 2 flights. You could do 40 days, 45. Mm-hmm.
And there are accelerated programs out there.
There are accelerated programs.
That let you do that.
Our school has a 30-day guaranteed program.
Yep.
But you are drinking from a fire hydrant. You need to, that is all you do for those 30 days. You don't eat, sleep, go out to eat. You don't have a girlfriend, you don't have a life. You literally eat and breathe aviation. That's all you do for those 30 days. You will leave with a private pilot certificate. but man, you're going to be tired. But you get it. And Clayton, who is on here, was our very first, I think, first or second student at our school that actually went through the guaranteed 30-day program and graduated and passed.
Yep.
And he's also a service member, so thank you for your service, Clayton.
That's awesome. So, yeah, there are ways to get through it, accelerated courses. So, but thank you for your question, Miguel. Moving on to another question. Rachel says, working on my CFI now, wondering how bad CFI is being needed out there right now.
That's a very good. We just had an instructor meeting about that today with my boss, and it's tough. He's getting phone calls from other flight schools. I'm not going to mention what schools. I've had some of those flight schools, a couple of them, reach out to me saying, "Hey, are they hiring at your school?" And unfortunately, we're not.
Well, and part of the problem is when we're talking about flight schools, you start talking about what part they are. And part 61 is more of the easy type training. Part 141 is more of the, we'll say, college of aviation.
That's still the same. Just
it's an approved course by the FAA is what it really comes down to. But those schools are really struggling because a lot of their students were international students.
Yeah.
And so they needed CFIs like crazy, but with the borders kind of closed right now, they're not letting anyone fly in. We're not seeing the influx of students because it's cheaper to train in the United States than it is outside
especially
the United
Arizona.
States. Yeah, especially in Arizona.
Especially because we get 360 days a year of no weather, no snow, no rain. It's moderately cold. It's perfect.
Yeah. So it gets really rough out there right now for CFIs, just like it is for pilots. But like John was saying before, once we get past a lot of this COVID stuff, once people start getting vaccines and the aviation in general starts becoming popular again, we will see the need for CFIs. We will see the need for pilots, instructors, everything. The downstream will be very quick, very, very quick. So, all right, we're going to move on to a community post and the community posts are just, I asked the question, hey, do you guys have any questions over in our community? So definitely follow us on Facebook. Not Facebook. Well, I do ask on Facebook and Instagram and other places for questions when I announce the live stream. So also on YouTube. But go ahead and comment on any one of those and we could answer your question. But this is a good one. And John, I'll let you answer this one. This is from Miguel, 9590. Hey, we just answered his question too.
Yeah, we just did. Yeah,
but this one's different. What's the most common progression to get to your commercial pilot's license? I'm assuming you need instrument, but do you need to be a CFI or a multi-engine rated, or can I go straight from private to commercial? He's not a pilot yet, but he's asking for a friend. I'm pretty sure he's friendly to himself.
Yeah, Miguel, it's okay. You can point the finger at yourself and say, "This question's for me." I had to literally just beg and grovel and be very humble when I started flight training because it's not easy. And I had to ask for a lot of help, a lot of assistance, a lot of financial assistance, a lot of just assistance with, hey, I want to hang out with someone who's a pilot and hopefully learn something. You do not need to progress. Okay, so you got to get your private first. You can't do anything in a plane without getting a private pilot license. If you want to go commercial, you're going to need 250 hours total time. Well, at 250 hours, the only way you're going to get that is if you're flying day and night. And if you do some long cross countries. I always tell everybody, get your instrument rating. It makes you a better pilot. You can fly in the soup or in inclement weather up to a certain point, but you're still getting those hours. The faster you get the hours, the faster you get the rating. The faster you get the rating, the faster you can start making money. My first ever job as a commercial pilot happened by just chance where a friend of mine was, Dave England, who's an anesthesiologist I used to work with, was getting married. And he said, hey, I need to find a banner tow person to do a wedding proposal middle of the day. And I called around and I found the Sky Sign guy who could do it at night. And after we got to talking, he said, oh, I heard you're a commercial pilot. I said, yeah. He goes, well, can you do your buddy's banner? I'm like, yeah. So it went from not having a job. I was still working in healthcare, but I was still getting killed with my hours to now suddenly overnight, I had my very first commercial gig. I was getting paid to do something I enjoyed, and it was a ton of fun. And my slow flight skills were polished beyond belief. That aircraft was lucky to see 75 knots in cruise downhill. It was so much fun flying that plane. Oh my God, it was fun. So you never know where you're going to find out that first job. You never know what's going to happen or what's going to transpire to get you to that next level, that next rating, the next job, the next person you meet. You never know.
Yep. But just to recap, you would say private first. Everyone gets private. Recommended instrument,
Please, yeah.
and then commercial. That's the normal progression that most people go through, and then the benefits, like you said, happen. But not everyone. You don't have to get an instrument to be a commercially rated pilot, but you do have limitations if you decide not to get your instrument rating. So highly recommend that you do it. And then after that, if you want to move on, if you want to fly for the airlines, yes, you need to get a multi-engine, and you also have to get type ratings.
Usually the airlines pay for those.
But usually the airlines pay for those, and along with those type ratings would come other things like if you what's the high altitude one? I don't even know.
High altitude operations.
Yeah, high altitude
25.
above 25, 24, 25. I can't remember.
25.
One of those
I'm sure
2,000
Jim Pittman's
feet.
on here. He's an expert who can.
Yeah, no one's calling us out for our inaccuracies.
I'm just a CFI.
And then you need to get your airline transport pilot certificate, ATP. But that's kind of the general progression from zero to hero. And there's all kinds of certificates in there that you could get and jobs that you could get in it as well. All right, we're going to ask John another fun question.
And by the way, I did not see these questions before. We were supposed to see them, and we never got around to that. So this is
going to be a good question. All right, John. So what are the most common mistake that student pilots make in their training?
they don't study enough, and I'm just as guilty of it. One of my very good instructors is a very good friend of mine now named Stephen Frisch, who is still a check airman at Westman. He would look at me during my instrument training and say, dude, you got to study more. And I was working and I always had an excuse. And it only lasted for such a long time before he threatened to switch me to another instructor. And I didn't want to do that. I had a really good rapport with him. And that's one of the times where the instructor kind of takes the reins and says, hey, you're not going anywhere. We need to fix this, or you need another instructor. And he kind of had one of those come to Jesus talks and said, hey, you're spending this kind of money. It's going to cost you this amount of money if you continue on this track. And as soon as that happened, there wasn't a day where I wasn't at the hospital, at work, when the patient's on bypass, and I'm waiting for the patient to come off bypass, and we're sitting there doing nothing, and I'm reading a book. I'm up there with the anesthesiologist, and I'm teaching him what I know just to re-solidify that information I've been taught the day before, teaching him how to do holds, intercepting and tracking a radial or bearing. That really was a pivotal moment. And then the chief pilot was my commercial instructor, and I had Chad Kostelnick as my private guy, and then I had a beginnings, my CFI instructor was another Chad Garvey, and they all pushed and pushed and pushed, and that's why the school worked for me. But I kind of digressed. The biggest mistake I see them do is they spend too much money, and they think it's easy. And it's not. If we as instructors have to spoon feed the kid, if I have to just keep giving it to you and give it to you all the time, you're never going to learn it, and it's going to cost you potentially a third, if not half more.
Yeah.
So you're looking at 10 to 15 for a private. You're talking 30 if you really just don't do anything.
Yeah. Well, and to add to that, like, everyone thinks that learning to fly is the getting in the airplane part.
No.
And it's not. There's a lot of learning that goes on with it. So when they say, what's the biggest mistake? And everyone says, oh, well, students don't look out the window enough. They're always staring at the cockpit or at the gauges, or they're not using, what's the joke? You're drifting, more right rudder.
More, yeah. or not enough right rudder. On takeoff, you're doing a forward slip, and you're.
But people think that it's that. But like John pointed out, I think a big mistake that student pilots do make is not preparing adequately.
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
preparing on the book side of things, because learning that stuff will definitely get you ready.
Yeah.
For the flying portion of it.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, I came from a medical background, and I had a lot of training to do what I did. And I never thought I could be a pilot and even get to where I was at because of how long it was taking. And I finally just said, hey, you know what? Let's just read the books. Let's start getting used to this. And I'm the kind of student where I had to read it, see it, do it, read it again before it was there. Once it's there, it never left. But it took me far more work for myself than it would, say, for Carl or somebody else. And I would get frustrated and like, what am I doing? I'm not going to get this. And my dad, before he passed, just kept saying, hey, you got this. Just keep your nose in the book.
Yep. Study, guys.
Yeah.
Study.
And find a good school. because there are a lot of schools, I'm not going to name any names, but there's a 3-letter school in town here that they are horribly expensive.
We'll just leave that one there. I wanted to say hi to Jeff Ballantyne. There's a whole story as why I slaughter everyone's names. I'm not going to get into it. It sounds like you had a prop strike on your solo. That sounds awful. Send me a message. I'd like to ask you some questions about that.
Would that be Jeff Ballantyne, who used to work at Banner Desert Medical Center with me? If it is, tell me, because that would be hilarious. That would be a small world.
And my son says hi. He'd like to fly an airplane to the moon. No, Ty, that's not possible.
Something about pressure and density would be an issue there.
Another question here from the chat. Doran, can you read that for me?
Drona Thapa. Sorry.
I'm just, yeah. Ask, what would be other good options for people to get to an airline transport pilot license if being a CFI is not your thing, coming fresh out of a commercial and multi add-on?
Fly jump planes.
Yeah, jump planes. People who want to go skydiving, that's what we mean.
You can work for Ameriflight.
There's some
Cargo.
of that. You can move cargo around if you have access to an airplane. There are a lot of things that you can do at $250. Realize that the airline transport pilot is for being in an airline and transporting people.
It is him.
Oh my goodness. Anyways.
Oh my God.
So there are a lot of jobs. They're hard to come by. I believe Bold Method has a whole article and a handful of things that you can go do.
They have a very good.
So check that out. I'll try to remember to put the link down below on that one. But it's rough. I'll be honest. Getting to 1,500 hours without being a CFI is going to be rough. So
I do know a guy that flew. He works for Air Canada now. He flew jumpers at Eloy here in Arizona. He was making, I think, $8 an hour about 5 years ago. But he had multi-engine turbine time. He had about 1,000 hours of turbine time when he went to the regionals, and they took him. And he lived on rice and beans for about 18 months. But as soon as he hit that 1,000 hours of PIC,
well, and there is a perk sometimes to working at those places.
Yeah.
Like you said, he got turbine time.
He got really good turbine time.
Sometimes when you jump into those jobs, like jump planes, sometimes they use King Airs.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, I'm not rated for that, but if you're willing to work for $8 an hour, they're willing to help you get a type rating or whatever you need to be able to fly that airplane. So
it's not easy, it's not cheap, but if someone else is willing to pay for it, plan on you not making very much money doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. We're going to go back to a community question real quick. Pick which one.
Got a lot of questions.
Yeah, no, he's great. What's the best way to buy an airplane? Can you purchase a decent aircraft for around $15,000? And he just posted a question. Mooney Guy did another one. And this is coming from I'm Not Listening. Thank you. Hopefully you're listening again. I'm not listening.
Wow.
15,000 is 3 years ago. I would have said yes. I would have said yes. You could buy a Cessna 150 for $15,000.
It would have been a disaster. But
it would have been rough. It would have been flyable, and you would have been able to do it because 150s were going from anywhere between 15 to 22, 23,000. Yeah. But those same airplanes today are going for 25 to. I saw one.
There's one for
$40,000
at Glendale.
Yes, I just saw that one.
152 with its original wheel pants.
Not a 152, a 150. It's an original.
Yeah, okay.
It's got really nice paint and all this.
I'm not spending $40,000.
No, it is definitely not worth that. So
it is a dice roll if you want to buy one and use it for training, but I know more people than not that did that, and they are now broke.
Yes.
And they've got nothing to show for it.
Which plays into his question, what's the best way to buy an airplane? If you're planning on buying an airplane for training and then reselling that airplane, get a good airplane. Yes, it's going to cost more money, but getting a good, I would say 800 to 1,000 hour engine time aircraft, 172 PA-28 platform, something with at least 160 horse, you're going to be spending good money. I want to say those planes range anywhere from right now $50,000 to $100,000. The 172s are unreasonable right now.
A friend of mine bought a 172 N model for $122,000.
You can buy
10,000 hours on the frame.
You can buy a 182, better equipped for less. Anyways, but
or you can buy one and lease back.
You can lease it back. That's a
not
whole
bad
discussion
option.
we're
Yeah,
not
that's a
going to get
whole
into.
That's a whole different issue.
But if you're just planning on doing it for training, putting your hours in and then reselling it, aircraft values are only going up right now.
Yep.
Is that going to continue? I don't know. So it's kind of risky to buy and sell for your training. But the best way to buy an airplane is buy a good one, get a good inspection on it, and pick one that suits you. If you're doing training, the 172 is going to be great, and then sell it, move on to something else. Don't buy your dream plane and then get your training in it. Trust me, no CFI wants to train you to fly in your Platus.
No.
If you're a millionaire, billionaire, multi-millionaire.
I would tell someone to get a Cessna because at least you can do spin training in it. You can't do spin.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can't do
a
inside
lot of
of
things
those
you can't do
airplanes.
in a low wing that you can do in a high wing.
Yep. All right, let's move back over here to the comments. This is from Viking Barlick.
Multi-engine add-on.
How much? We'll read it. It says, how long does the multi-engine add-on take, and how much does it cost?
Depends on you. Depends on how quickly you study, how quickly you absorb the information, the knowledge. I believe at our school at Fly Goodyear, I think it's a 7 or 10 day program. I've had 2 friends that I put through it, and they went in with no multi-time experience at all. They came out and they are phenomenal multi-engine pilots. I've flown with them a dozen times, and it's about $8,000, 5 to 8.
Yeah, and I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Some places, if you do it privately, you can get it closer to 4 to 5.
Yeah.
But in reality, I don't believe there are any actual requirements time-wise.
No, there is no
for it.
No.
There's just it's once. Do you need a sign-off for multi? I can't
You
remember.
You still need a check ride for it.
Yeah, you do need a check ride for a multi-engine. That's right. So you just have to get signed off. So there's no actual requirements like there are the private. I believe. Don't quote me on that. Oh, by the way, disclaimer: this video is for informational purposes only. Don't quote us on any actual.
Yeah, don't quote us. Don't quote the CFI on actual knowledge, please. My boss is probably watching this.
Oh, I hope he is. All right. Another question here from Mooney. 201ER. Why are Phoenix Bravo controllers so unreasonable?
Oh, you don't. They're more reasonable than lots of other places I've been to. I literally will. I'm not going to take offense to this, but I will tell you that they are extremely easy to work with, and I've dealt with them in VFR, IFR, SkySign, moving aircraft, moving animals for a rescue. I've squawked 7600, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and they've been nothing but fantastic. I have yet to find a controller except the one at Deer Valley who's no longer there, who is now at Glendale, that was unreasonable. I haven't found one yet. They have their days like everybody else. If you are kind with them, they will be kind with you. But if your instant response is negative and snarling and you don't sound like you're having a good day, guess what? They're not going to be nice back, and they don't have to.
And to their point, you mentioned down here that it's easier to get clearance into New York. A lot of it has to do with how busy an airport actually is. Realize that Phoenix Sky Harbor is actually below on the top 25 busiest airports in the United States. They are below Deer Valley Airport, but they're still on the top 25 busiest airports inside of the United States. And so, yes, when you're flying inside of there, getting clearance to fly VFR inside of there, or even worse, you're at Deer Valley on an IFR day trying to get an IFR clearance, be prepared to wait 45 minutes to an hour.
It's going to be tough.
It has to do with how busy things really are. So just take that with a grain of salt, and that's...
And there's, by the way, in where's it, LaGuardia? What do you say? Where he was at?
I just said
New York. Okay, well, New York. Well, I mean, how much of New York Class Bravo can they do training? It's probably one of those 13 airports that students can't fly into or do training at. Well, guess what? Phoenix is not one of those airports. You can do a Falcon Bravo transition. You can do a VOR Charlie coming through the Phoenix airspace. So now you've got one of the top 20th busiest airports, and now you throw on commercial instrument private pilot training through the Bravo.
All the time. It gets a little rough.
360 days a year, they're going to be taxed. So I kill them with kindness, and I've never had a problem.
Yep. No, and I've had nothing but good experiences with them as well. It just contacted them and working with them. Going to go over here again to another chat comment. This is from
I just saw
Ellie Carey. Carey?
Yeah.
What's your favorite jet plane? I, for some reason, like the Honda Jet.
I love the Lear.
Yeah?
I like the Honda Jet. I think it's sexy and sleek, but a Lear Jet is a rocket. I think it rotates at 136 or 146 knots. It'll shoot an approach at 240 miles or 240 knots. If you want something that just gets up and goes and gets you to where you're at and eats up all your fuel, then you get a Lear. If you want comfort and you want to show off how much money you have, you get a
Honda Jet?
Well, no. I wouldn't even say. I would say
A Cirrus Vision Jet.
No, because that's still just $1 million. Not like I have $1 million kicking around, but you could get a Gulfstream for $35 million and really show off how much money you have. But here's the thing: if you're pilots or enthusiasts like all of us are, why would you spend that money and not have a license? I'd rather have that kind of money, but go buy a 172 and fly myself where I want to go, and I have the joy of getting there on my own and having that responsibility and taking some people up and having some fun. You can't have a lot of fun in the back of a business jet unless you're a multi-billionaire.
But Jason Riley and I are on the same page. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's sexy, but they're also charging you per hour to use it too. It's a lease. You don't really ever own the thing because you're paying it back. Same thing with the Sears. You never own.
Oh yes,
the aircraft.
nice guy here. He's telling us the Learjet just got.
It was. They
Yeah.
just pulled the plug on it. That will stop third quarter of this year.
Yep.
It's done.
Yep. That's really sad. And yeah, that's sad. We're going to go over here and ask John another question that I have predetermined because I want to hear a story, a good story. What is your scariest moment as an instructor?
There's a lot. I will tell you, as an instructor, it makes you value your life, and it makes you value your training where you got it. It will literally make you thank your older instructors or people who have trained you or helped you get to this path, because they had to deal with me when I tried to kill them every day, and I'm now having to deal with that same baptism by fire, trial by fire kind of thing. I did have a guy. We were leaving Payson, and Payson's departure procedures: you take off, do a 30-degree turnout.
Yep.
And then you turn back on course to avoid the home owners that don't like living near an airport.
That moved right next to an airport.
You move next to an airport
Yeah.
with the best pie in the entire world.
They do have good pie.
Oh, so take off, literally on instruments. You can't see anything outside. It is dark as it could ever be. And I look over the attitude indicator and I can feel we're slipping. It just felt off, felt different. I looked over the attitude indicator. We are in a 20-degree banked left-hand turn, and he's got almost full right rudder in. So we are now confirmed slipping, and I look at the airspeed indicator, and it's going through 60 knots, and it's trending downward quite rapidly. And it made me nervous, and I'm thinking, okay, hit the rudder. This guy supposedly had several thousand hours of time, and before I could get on the rudder, the stall warning horn didn't just gently come on. It wasn't slowly coming out like you're practicing a stall. It was on at full power, and I could feel above it, and I just immediately took controls. And I looked down, I illuminated the lights on the wing, and I could see trees. Those lights aren't bright on that plane.
No, they're not.
At all.
No.
The pucker factor went through the roof.
I couldn't imagine.
I have never been more scared in my life. And the pilot, unfortunately, he didn't have a lot of time at night. And that's one thing as an instructor, you're taking someone on their word of, oh, I've got lots of experience, or I have no experience, or hey, I want to be a pilot. And then they lock up and they don't let go of the controls. If you say, hey, give me controls, and they don't do it, now you got to fly the plane, and you got to hit that person next to you to make them snap out of whatever problem.
I've actually heard of that. Instructors having to physically hit their students.
I literally had to hit a guy I used to work with when I was a commercial pilot. We were time building. I was time building. I went to Marana, and 50 feet before we went to land, he grabbed the controls and went full forward. And I'm sitting there fighting with him, pulling back, and we are headed for the ground. And I finally take my hand to his neck, get him to stop. He coughed, stopped breathing for a moment, too. We went back home. And
I'm sure you didn't mean to him the neck. It was more of a...
No, I went right for the neck. I knew that would stop him doing what he was doing. He was going to kill us.
Yeah.
And when I said, what were you doing? He said, well, I thought we were going to die. And I said, well, why would you push forward? And him and I we no longer talk anymore.
Oh yeah,
Well, we had a difference of opinion, and but things like that can happen.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really important to know who you're going up flying with. Before Carl and I flew for the first time, he was asking me questions. Hey, are you ready to go? Of course I'm ready. Oh, are you sure? Yes, absolutely. And he really took responsibility of that flight. And no matter what rating, no matter what you're doing, as PIC, which he was acting that day, you've got to set those limitations. You've got to let them know, hey, I'm flying this plane. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to get there. Are you safe to go? And that is pivotal for a safe flight.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, good luck.
Well, and it creates scary experiences like that. And it's and I've heard of students actually like getting locked up, like even in when they're practicing stalls. They're like, well, I got to dip the nose a little bit, get a little bit of airspeed, and then they like, okay, now what? And they've got their arms locked, and you're sitting over there trying to pull back.
Or the ones where they put you into spin because they didn't keep the right rudder in and you didn't give it at the right time.
Yeah.
It's...
Oh, this one's fun. All right. So thank you for answering that. Let's move on to this one. I'm not listening again. Have you ever had a student throw you into a spin unintentionally?
Yeah. I kept saying more right rudder, and I said more right rudder, and the student just got frustrated. I said, fine. So he puts in full right rudder, and then we rotate the other way, and I just looked at him, and thank God we had the altitude. I know at 8,500 feet we could get out of it, and as soon as that thing rolled, I just kind of looked at him and said, what are you going to do? I said, let go, let me show you. And then as soon as we did that, he never wanted to practice a stall again until I showed him about a half a dozen of them, and then it finally worked. But
it clicks, yeah.
If you get frustrated, and that's something where you get frustrated, you don't just push more. You have got to listen to your instructor, and that's why we're there.
Well, and I did that once on my own too. I remember with my instructor, I had my dad in the back, and I was practicing a stall, and I did not have enough rudder in it. And so once we hit that stall, wing dipped, we went over, and I remember looking over at my instructor as it's happening and kind of like, what do I do now? And he just sits there, arms crossed, looks straight back at me, and he's like, what are you going to do? We had this conversation without even talking.
Yep. As instructors, we have to let you make mistakes.
Absolutely. Oh, that is so important.
It is. I literally had a student whose family called me. They go, we just watched your video, and we can see you doing this with your fingers, and they can just see me just
angry.
Like, come on, move the rope, add power, do something. We have to let you make mistakes up to a certain point.
Safety.
Correct. Yeah.
The point of safety.
Safe accidents. If you could, you really had to have a word for it. If you don't let them make mistakes, they're never going to know how to either get in them or, better yet, how to stay out of them.
Yeah.
That's why we practice coffin corner at 8,000 feet instead of 500 feet off.
Well, and I have a good experience myself or story about letting students make mistakes. And it is so important. And you guys, you're going to make them.
Yeah.
And you're going to make them as a pilot. And
make them.
Just make them because they're going to help you. So I remember when I first started flying my Cardinal. Not my Cardinal, the Cardinal I fly. I have to make sure I say that right. I do not own any airplanes yet. But
make fun of him for that. He has a plane.
But what was happening, I had to go get a checkout flight inside the airplane. And I was doing a checkout flight with the person who brought it back from the purchase. And he was, stamp of CFI, I think like a couple weeks before. And when you're a new CFI, you're a little jumpy on the controls. You already explained, you're sitting here and like fidgeting because you want to correct and do everything. And unfortunately, that's how that experience played out. So during my landings, my touch and goes and stuff, I never had the chance to land the plane.
Yeah, because he would just take it all.
He would jump in at the last second, just as we were touching down or something, and I never had that opportunity. And so later on, and if you guys follow my channel, you know the Cardinal's engine blew up, which was very catastrophic.
Wasn't your fault, though.
Not my fault. Not my fault. And then I had to get rechecked out again because it was so many months in between. And I also wanted to make sure I got checked out again. And I did it with a different CFI. And I came in on my first approach, and I touched down, and I hit hard. I hit really hard.
Those planes can take it.
And I was happy. I was so happy. And I said, hey, thank you. Thank you for letting me make that mistake.
Yeah.
I had never had that opportunity.
You know what it feels like. You know what the aircraft's capable of because you still the aircraft was still standing there going, hey, I'm ready to go. That wasn't
Well,
enough to kill it.
And the next 5 touch and goes were flawless because I knew what to do at that last moment, which is the training I didn't get before. And I've since flown with that previous instructor before. Man, he changed. He is an amazing instructor now.
Yep.
And so he does a fantastic job. It was just those new CFI jitters that he had going on. But
I like that one. I've been
great,
asked that
great
a whole
experience.
bunch.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
All right.
So
let's
I'm not listening. He's just taking this whole thing over.
Hey, he's serious about
no, he is.
this.
No, I get it. Do you think I could ask my flight instructor if we can do a spin even though I'm not in spin training and still working on my private? Yes. If you want to experience a spin, you go right ahead. It is not required for a U.S. license for a private pilot. It is required for a Canadian license. My Canadian student that just graduated today will need to do some spin training to get his Canadian license. He also has to do, I think, 5 more hours of night and 13 hours of cross-country time in Canada before Canada gives him a license. It's weird, but yes, if you want to experience a stall with a spin after, go right ahead.
And I recommend it.
I
think
I
spin
want you
training,
to see it because then you're going to know what not to do.
and I think it should be part of the private pilot certificate because there's far
At
too
least
many
exposure.
privates.
At least exposure to it.
Yeah. But I will tell you this to add on to that. I do know that in the United States, your spin training, they say you're only supposed to do it if you're working on your commercial certificate. However, there is a circular going around that happened that says you can do your spin training at any time. You don't have to be doing it. You're commercial and it's totally fine. Yep. So there are some older instructors who don't know about that circular. So feel
as long
free
as
to
the
do
aircraft is
utility certified for it.
Yeah, if you can go utility and it says limited aerobatics, including spins, you go right ahead. But you better make sure it's in utility category and take somebody with you, please. Don't
do it on yourself. No.
Don't watch a couple YouTube videos and think you're an expert. Because the only thing you're going to do is impact the ground, and it's not going to look good.
And fun fact, we are going to do my spin training.
Yes,
very soon at Fly Goodyear. Very exciting. So please stay tuned for that video. It'll probably be out in the next month. But
I'm going to make him puke.
I
love spins. This is going to be so much fun.
I need this in my life. I mean, seriously, I want spin training so bad, and I've wanted it. I even was trying to do some in my private training, but we could not get the airplane to spin. Some 172s are just so overly stable that you can't do anything in them. So that's that one for sure. All right. Another question here, and we're probably going to wrap this up in another 5 minutes or here, so guys. But I'm enjoying the questions. Thank you. It definitely helps us move along. Brian Liam again. What is a good flight simulator for a person to learn and to see how it looks being up in a plane? Could a flight simulator help out a lot? I keep saying, I said this on my last live stream, I'm working on a video with this. And there's a lot of controversy between can a flight simulator help you become a real life pilot? There are some things that it can do, and there are some things it can't do. Yeah. After all, it is just a game. Unless it is in a certified simulator, full motion simulators being the absolute best.
You get a Frasca static one or you get a Redbird. Granted, still, those are really good for instrument training because it's far less than grabbing a plane. You can still shoot approaches. You can practice the briefing. You can practice where you're going. You can practice what the Mausers look like and what the approach lights look and when you're going to break off an approach. But it doesn't replace doing it.
No.
At all.
There's different forces on your body. The feeling, the sounds, everything that's going on is different in real life.
There's a lot going on.
But look for that video because it will be a powerful video and it'll answer your question even better than we just did. So, Dutchy Girl, I agree with you. So cool. I don't know what we're talking about. There's a lag, remember? All right.
Did ground school, but didn't start training yet. Do you think the instructor would let me have the controls from... Well, yeah.
Well, read the question properly. Michael Swatter?
No.
I've already gone and done ground school, but I haven't started training yet. Do you think my instructor would let me have the controls from the start and only take over if it's unsafe? In my experience...
Your instructor should be giving you controls on the first flight.
That
instructor should be letting you do everything that first flight so you know exactly what you're getting into. That's a very impactful. The very first flight is one of the hardest ones you're going to take because you're going to be a brand new student.
And your brain's gonna.
Your brain is just going to go. You're going to have a stroke. You're literally going to. If an instructor ever says, "I don't want you flying the first time,"
Yeah, get rid of them because they're trying to build time.
That guy does not care about your success at all.
And my understanding is that you haven't gone on your first flight yet. Go over to our channel page. We have a video on how to start becoming a pilot. Check that one out. We sent my son out on a discovery flight, which is what that's going to be. Even on the discovery flight, they should be letting you touch the controls, shadow the controls, giving you full controls when it's safe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that they should be doing for you. So check that video out because
I can't believe a CFI would never let a student take
that
controls.
blows my mind too.
That
But
is
I've heard of
insane.
it. I've absolutely heard of it.
Rachel, John, what helped you the most on your way to become a CFI? God, it's not one thing. It literally. I'm not trying to boast his.
Oh, don't talk about me.
I will tell you, it's meeting people like this and just getting out there. It's having fun. It's him and I. When I took him flying after I got my certificate, and he wanted to know what a Shondell was. He had never experienced one. Okay, let's go. And I put him in the plane. We did a Shondell. We did lazy eights. We did eights on pylons. He hadn't experienced that. So it's good. It's good training for me to then relearn what I've already learned how to do, and to keep it fresh. But it's also getting out there and talking to instructors, sitting in the back seat of your flight school. Guys, I cannot tell you how much money I saved doing that, or sitting in the classroom next to the one that was going over something I just heard.
Yeah.
Or being prepared for the next lesson that I had in 2 hours by sitting in the same instructor's classroom with somebody else and getting that free knowledge. That is huge.
And that's really easy to do when you're at a flight school.
And it's free. It's literally free. You can do that pretty much anywhere. Now, if the school says we don't allow that,
yeah, they're not like
leave.
The schools where I'm at. They're not going to let me go walk in and listen. So
if you're not a student there, they won't let you do that. But if you're a student, they should let you do that. I implore it, and I ask my students to bring as many people in as possible, because you never know. You might learn something that's going to save you a ton of money later.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, all right, guys, I think that's going to be about it for tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you, John, for coming.
Thank you for letting me be here.
Talking with us.
This is fun.
Telling stories.
This is what happens after I
Yeah.
hunt you down for years.
Hunt you down for years.
We'll do that video on the Sky Sign. I'll let you do some flying.
No, that would be great. Again, thank you guys inside the chat for giving us your questions. You guys help make this go. I do prepare other questions and try to answer as many as I can, but I really like engaging with you guys so much. Look next month, about 4 weeks from now is really what it's going to be. Look for that live stream. We're going to have hopefully someone special from Texas going to be on it, virtually of course, because we're not going to have them fly out here for it, but it should be very fun, exciting, and stories like you wouldn't believe. Yeah. Anyways, guys, thanks again for coming. Share aviation wherever you can, and we'll see you in the next video.
See you guys.